I'm Rebecca Hobbs. My passage comes from Dickens Bleak House, chapter 35. In this passage, Esther falls deathly ill and is bedridden. This passage exemplifies Esther's selflessness by showing that even on her deathbed, Esther is more concerned with those she loves and cares for than herself. I lay ill through several weeks, and the usual tenor of my life became like an old remembrance. But this was not the effect of time so much as the change in all my habits made by the helplessness and inaction of a sick room. Before I had been confined to it many days, everything else seemed to have retired into a remote distance, where there was little or no separation between the various stages of my life, which had been really divided by years. In falling ill, I seemed to have crossed a dark lake and to have left all my experiences mingled together by the great distance on the healthy shore. My housekeeping duties, though at first it caused me great anxiety to think that they were unperformed, were soon as far off as the oldest of old duties at Greenleaf, or the summer afternoons when I went home from school with my portfolio under my arm and my childish head at my side to my godmother's house. I'd never known before how short life really was and into how small a space the mind could put it. While I was very ill, the way in which these divisions of time became confused with one another distressed my mind exceedingly. At once a child, an elder girl, and a little woman, I had been so happy as I was not only oppressed by cares and difficulties adapted to each station, but by the great perplexity of endlessly trying to reconcile them. I suppose that few who have not been in such a condition can quite understand what I mean, or what painful unrest arose from this source. For the same reason, I am almost afraid to hint that at the time of my disorder, it seemed like one long night, but I believe there were both nights and days in it, when I labored up colossal staircases, ever striving to reach the top, and ever turned, as I have seen a worm in a garden path, by some obstruction, and laboring again. I knew perfectly at intervals, and I think vaguely at most times, that I was in my bed, and I talked with Charlie, and felt her touch, and knew her very well. Yet I would find myself complaining, "Oh, more of these never-ending stairs, Charlie, more and more, piled up to the sky, I think," and laboring on again. Dare I hint that at the worst time, when, strung together in some great black space, there was a flaming necklace, or ring, or starry circle of some kind, of which I was one of the beads, and when my only prayer was to be taken off from the rest, and when it was such inexplicable agony and misery to be part of the dreadful thing. Perhaps the less I say of these sick experiences, the less tedious and the more intelligible I shall be. I do not recall them to make others unhappy, or because I am now the least unhappy in remembering them. It may be that if we knew more of such strange afflictions, we might be the better able to alleviate their intensity. The repose that succeeded the long, delicious sleep, the blissful rest, when in my weakness I was too calm to have any care for myself, and could have heard, or so I think now, that I was dying, with no other emotion than with a pitying love for those I left behind. This state can be perhaps more widely understood. I was in this state when I first sprung from the light, as it twinkled on me once more, and knew with a boundless joy, for which no words are rapturous enough, that I should see again. I had heard my Ada crying at the door, day and night. I'd heard her calling to me that I was cruel and did not love her. I'd heard her praying and imploring to be let in to nurse and comfort me, and to leave my bedside no more. But I'd only said, whenever I could speak, "Never, sweet girl, never," and I heard over and over again, reminded Charlie that she was to keep my darling from the room, whether I lived or died. Charlie had been true to me in that time of need, and with her little head and her great heart had kept the door fast. But now, my sight strengthening and the glorious light coming every day more fully and brightly on me, I could read the letters that my dear wrote to me every morning and evening, and could put them to my lips and lay my cheek upon them with no fear of hurting her. I could see my little maid, so tender and so careful, going about the 2 rooms, setting everything in order and speaking cheerfully to Ada from the open window again. I could understand the stillness in the house and the thoughtfulness it expressed on the part of all those who had always been so good to me. I could weep in the exquisite felicity of my heart and be happy in my weakness as ever I had been in my strength. By and by, my strength began to be restored. Instead of lying, with so strange a calmness, watching what was done for me, as if it were done for someone else, whom I was quite sorry for, it helped it a little, and so on to a little more, and much more, until I became useful to myself and interested and attached to life again.